Farmers Insurance Whisper is back, baby. Farmers Insurance Week, my favorite week of the year, only because it's the only week of the year I consistently make money. Fairway to Heaven, we're live in 30 seconds.
Pop, 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 julep. Pop, 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 julep. Pop, 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 julep. Pop, 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 woo!
And welcome, everybody, to Fairway to Heaven right here on the STT Sports Network, setting the trends for what sports talk should be in Philadelphia and abroad. Guys, welcome to the show. Make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button and that share button wherever you are watching. Please do that as we continue to grow this great channel. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, found on all social media platforms at Beard and Knowledge. We got my two co-hosts here with me tonight, Stevie Fuentes, Soldier Steve 247 on Twitter, and Jason Sullivan, of course, J Sully 2121. Jason, we got to start the show. I don't see a Christmas tree hanging back there. What does that mean?
Listen, we lost the game. We're losing our coordinators. I feel like I'm losing my mind. My kid every day wakes up and he's like, did the Lions really lose? I'm like, they lost. Yeah, they lost. It's like, I just can't believe it.
I mean, you are a Lions fan. I mean, you've never actually won anything, so you should be used to that, right?
That makes it even worse because we've never had this. And now we do have this, and it's all for naught.
Stevie, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It was a great weekend of football. Great weekend of football for me. I feel like I called it. I feel like I said that tree was going to be gone come this week. We weren't going to have to deal with any Eagles versus Detroit talk.
God, I'm getting
we just got to deal with the Washington fans thinking that they're this great team that are just going to dominate everybody. That's football talk. This is golf talk here. This is Fairway to Heaven, where we are going to break down the Farmers Insurance. First, obviously, last week at the AMEX. Congratulations, Steve, your first ever outright hitting Sepp Straka. I don't know. I know his average number was about 60-1. I don't know what you had him at, but great job calling Sepp Straka last week. It was a crazy week of golf last week. I mean, Max Grayson, until the last couple of holes, he was like 20, 21 under. He was my main pick last week, and he was still like 7 strokes off the lead at 20 under, and I kind of hate that kind of golf when you're in top 5 and you're still that far away. But great job, Steve, last week with Sepp Straka.
Appreciate it. And then with our DFS, I remember I said, I guess I'll go with Jason Day, and then he ends up finishing T3. So yeah, it was a good week, good weekend of golf.
And that's just, Jason, why golf is so difficult. Like, we had great weeks, week 1 with the Sony Open, and I don't know about you, but I had 1 min cash and 1 min showdown cash, and that was it. So I brought in a grand total of $2 off of like a $50 investment after the first week, bringing in a boatload of money. That DFS and gambling on golf it's hard, right?
It's funny too, like what Steve just said. It's like sometimes I find out like my best picks are like I make a lineup, I put in 4 or 5 guys, and then I realize, okay, this leaves me with, in your case, Jason Day. Okay, this leaves me with so-and-so, and I end up plugging them in and they end up being a good play. It's like, I feel like sometimes we overthink, and I'm the main example of that this week. I am overthinking the hell out of this event. So looking at
we are the Farmers Insurance at Torey Pines down in beautiful southern San Diego, California, which is one of my favorite cities in this country that I've been to. It's beautiful. If it was, 1/10 of the cost of living, I'd probably be doing this show from San Diego, but it's, one of the most expensive cities to live in this country. Torey Pines, you got the north and the south course, 3 rounds at the south course, 1 course on the north course. There's been a lot of withdrawals from this event. Last week, building up to it, and also already this week, Colin Morikawa, Nicholas Højgaard, Mackenzie Hughes, Akshay Bhatia, Harry Hall withdrew earlier today from the event. Yeah. A lot of withdrawals. Harry Hall was a guy I had in a bunch of lineups. Jason, do you have any theory on why so many golfers are withdrawing from this event?
I think it's bad timing. I think that's part of it. I think you're going to see, Phoenix next week, or 2 weeks from now, which everybody loves, and then Genesis right after that. So it's like, I think it's just the time of the year. It's like guys don't want to, play too much at this point of the year, and they want to save up for these, signature events or these bigger events that are happening.
Yeah, Steve, do you have anything else to add on why maybe these guys are withdrawing? because it seems like not just this week, a lot of events early this year. I know Scotty Scheffler cut his hand, and I know now he said that he might not play next week either. The hand is not fully healed yet. Outside of that, we haven't really heard of like bad injuries or anything like that. Like people are just dropping left and right on these early events.
I think especially for this one, you're going to see this course again in a few weeks. You know, we talked about it before the show at the Genesis. So a lot of these guys who are playing well, you know, you mentioned you had Harry Hall on your betting card. He's been in great form. Why not take a week off now instead of like the Eric Coles who just want to play rounds and rounds and rounds of golf week after week? You don't need to do that and kill yourself in the beginning. Save yourself, you know, for the middle towards in the end of this tour.
You know, they're trying to get players to play more events with all these elevated events. And to kind of compound on what you guys said, let me put it into numbers. There's 8 elevated events. There's 4 majors, plus the Players' Championship, plus the 3 playoff events. That's 16 events right there. Throw in the Scottish Open, which is the week before the Open, and a lot of people play that. That's 17 events. Most of the good golfers don't want to play much more than 17 events. Every golfer's got their sponsors that they want to play in the sponsored events and stuff like that. I mean, I think the way, and Jason, I think we talked about this last year a little bit towards the end of the season, the way they group all the elevated events together and don't spread them out throughout the year, I think they're saving themselves for that stretch run. Maybe to bring up that old topic again, they got to stretch the elevated events out. Maybe week 2 of the year should be an elevated event. I know that would mean rearranging the schedule a little bit, but maybe some rearranging the schedule is necessary.
I think that's the biggest problem right now. I think, like you said, the events are so packed together, and like we've all kind of said, it's like guys don't want to pull an Eric Cole and be like completely cashed out August 1st. Like you want to be in good form in August next year. I mean, these guys, some of these guys are playing so much already. It's like the same. It seems like we've had 3 events that pretty much the same fields, more or less. I mean, like, I think you see these bigger guys like Morikawa, and he's like, why am I going to kill myself now when I can play later on in the year? And you know, you're going to play all these elevated events, and you can play later on in the year. So, you know,
I kind of mentioned to you guys, and you guys, I don't know if you agreed or disagreed, but I kind of feel like now, like you said, Steve, the Genesis is getting moved from, you know, LA down here to this event in a few weeks. It's like the 2nd week in February, I believe it is, 3rd week in February, because obviously the wildfires in California, they can't have it there. So they're having it here down in San Diego. You would think some of these golfers would want to play this event to kind of get a leg up on the rest of the competition that's not playing it, to kind of get a little extra work on the course, because you do play the South course of Torrey Pines 3 times this week, and the South course is extremely difficult compared to the North course. You know, Steve, is there any reason why maybe maybe I'm making too much of, you know, getting that extra work on the course?
I think it's simply just rest. That you look at look at Akshay. He was one of those guys who was like Eric Cole, who just round after round, week after week, and he's one of the ones who withdrew. So I think they're learning from this, almost like, hey, if you're not going to change where these events are placed, we'll just do it for you and sit out some of these events. And like I said, current form, I think a lot of these guys played in the fall and had some good rounds and some good weeks that are translating into good weeks right now.
Yeah. So we are playing Torrey Pines in the 2 courses, like I said, 2 completely different courses. And we do have still, with the withdrawal, some really good names. You have Hideki Matsuyama, Sung J M, Ludwig Oberg, Tony Finau, Shane Lowry. We've got major champions still in this field to break down. The South course, a super long, almost 7,800-yard course. The North course, a much shorter par 72. Jason, mainly tell us about the South course, because that's where we're going to get most of our information from. You know, the North course, there's not even shot tracking data for the North course. Tell us a little bit about the South course at Torrey Pines and what these golfers should expect to face this week.
It's the longest course that you're going to play all year. So, I mean, like you said, 7,765 yards, par 72. There's 4 par 4s that are between 6 par 4s that are between 450 and 500. You're going to see a lot of, obviously, you're going to have to smash the ball off the tee. You're going to want to play guys that have distance, but you're also going to see a lot of long iron play. So you're going to want to have guys that are good between 175 and over 200 plus. I mean, it's one of those courses where you got to hit it far and you got to hit it straight. So I want bombers.
So I mean, hitting it far is important, obviously, and driving distance will matter this week. But we've seen from some of the winners, someone like Max Homa, who's got great course history, or Tony Finau hasn't won here, great course history. They're not the longest hitters, but they're great approach players. Would you consider weighing approach maybe a little bit more, or tee to green a little bit more, and kind of backtracking on the driving distance a little bit? It's got to be in your model, but it maybe backtrack a little bit, because that's kind of what I was looking at this week.
I just put it in my model just a little bit, driving distance. No, I agree with you. Total driving is what it's all about. I mean, this is a ball striker's course. You're not gonna have a guy that can't keep it in play. Like, you don't necessarily have to be super, super long, but if you're not keeping it in play, you're screwed here. So, yeah.
This is also a course where scoring is at a premium. I mean, it's not a birdie fest. You have to, you see some of these guys, Patrick Reed, Max Homa. Was it when Max Homa won it, or was it Patrick Reed that there was a lot of weather at it a few years ago, and it was like a -6, -5 kind of, victory? Steve, I mean, do you have anything to add to what you're looking at golfer-wise? Because I'm looking at guys that can grind it out. That's what I want my number one golfers this week, grinders that know how to come up clutch in big moments.
Bogey avoidance to go along with Jason, just because of, like you said, birdies aren't at a premium. It's the complete opposite of what we saw last week. It's complete different courses, challenges, everything. So guys who can hit, these par fours that are long, the 450 to 500 par fours, and be accurate off the tee. I'm very balanced between power off the tee versus full tee to green and approach this week, just because you got a good mix of guys who are giving you that power and accuracy, but good second shot guys as well. So they themselves have to strategize how they're going to play this week off the tee.
Absolutely. And how much do you guys take into account? Because obviously there's a lot of talk this week about course history. Torey Pines is a legendary course, and there's a lot of guys with a lot of history dating back 10, 12 years, maybe even longer at this course. Knowing how to work around a course is tough, especially if you're not a long hitter. I think course history definitely is important, because you got to be able to, if you're not a long hitter, you're going to miss greens, which means you have to be a good scrambler, short game player, stuff like that. Jason, course history, very important this week?
I think so. And you want the guys that are, good course history, but you also want the grinders, like you said. I think that's why you see a guy like Max Homa. Last year was, I think, the exception to him because he had such a bad year. But I feel like he's almost like the definition of that on the tour. Like, he doesn't do anything exceptionally well, but he does everything pretty well. He can grind it. He's not going to make a lot of big numbers. He's just a grinder. And I think that's the kind of guy that sets up perfect for this course. It's like, you're not going to overpower this course because of the length. You're going to have to hit fairways, and then you're going to have to par's going to be a good score. And I think that's a welcome thing, because these tournaments that are like, 25 to 29 under just don't keep my attention as a golf fan. I don't think they're not going to keep the casual fan either, because it's not fun to watch. I don't know. I'd rather have a guy, pull a miracle out just to save a par than watch a guy, eagle every other hole. It's not fun to watch for me. So
we'll get to price tier by price tier in a minute, but I want to talk about Max Homa a little bit, because going in, Jason, last year, when we did our preview show, I thought Max Homa was going to be one of those guys that won his first major last year. Yep. He had, where's the tournament history? Last year, where did he finish last year in this event?
12th, I think.
Yeah, I know it was good. Yeah, it was T13 last year. So he had a good showing at this event, and then just completely fell off the face of the planet last year. Had a horrendous season last year on the PGA Tour. Steve, is this the kind of a course, if you have super success at a course, but the player itself isn't having, in the greatest format overall, does that change your opinion at all? Or do you think, well, if this is his course, this is his get right course to an extent, maybe this course can return the tides for him? Which way would you lean on somebody like Max Homa coming in this week?
I actually love Max Homa this week. I have him in a lot of my lineups. I am more in favor of course history versus current form, just because of how challenging this course is. You're going to know this course with how tight and narrow the fairways are, how small the greens are. You're going to have a strategy going into this week. And already this week you're playing on Wednesday. So that's got to mess up. It's this tournament starting Wednesday. It's going to end Saturday. Things like that are already, you have to think about. So course history for me is, especially when it comes to Max Homa, is what I'm favoring.
I think
I totally forgot to mention that at the top of the show, guys. The tournament does start tomorrow, so make sure your lineups are locked tonight before you go to bed or very early tomorrow morning. Jason, do you agree with what he said on Max Homa? Because I'm looking at a 15+% ownership percentage right now for him. He's a guy that was struggling. He's still close to 9K this week. He was in my maybe pool. He has not made any of my lineups yet, but he's one of those guys that I've 3 of my 19 outright hits have been Max Homa hits. So, I struggle not to pick Max Homa, but just generally he's been bad for a good year now.
But I think the biggest misconception with DFS is kind of what Steve just talked about. I think everybody's so worried about current form, which is important. I mean, you don't want a guy that's coming in and, missing 4 cuts in a row. You don't want that ever. But at the same time, I feel like there's just guys that prefer courses. I mean, you see, so you said Max Homa had a terrible year last year, right? Still finished 13th here. Zalatoris is another one. I mean, he was so injured. He was playing like crap. I mean, no high finishes at all. I think he finished, top 13 or something like that too. Here too, it's like when these guys like the courses, I almost feel like it doesn't really matter what kind of form they're in. You see that with a guy like those guys are better players, but you see that with like JJ Spawn, like guys in like that. They just have certain courses where they always play well. So I think course history matters in general way more than people think they do, and I think it really matters a lot here. So,
but I'm looking at Max Homa's numbers here, round by or tournament by tournament. 15 of his last 17 events, through the regular season, not counting the fall swing or anything. 15 of his 17 events, he lost strokes off the tee. Yeah. Like that's how bad he's been. And you got a long course, you got to hit the fairway and stuff like that. And like this could get him right, Steven. I know you got something to say there, but like I'm finding it hard that I think too many people, if his ownership percentage was 10%, 11% because of the struggles, I might be in on Max Homa. But I see better pivots around Max Homa, and we'll get to those price tiers in a little bit. Go ahead, Steve.
Could playing in the TGL have anything to do with how people, could it be good or could it be bad with this being the first tournament off a event like that?
I don't know. Some guys have struggled off the TGL and some guys have withdrawn that were on the TGL. Tomorrow's golf league is ruining today's golf league, basically, in my opinion. That was really bad. That just came up in my head. That was really bad. All right. It rolled off the tongue, we'll say. All right, let's get into the price tier. We got 4 guys 10K and above this week. We got Ludwig Oberg, who's the top guy, the favorite to win. You got Hideki, you got Tony Finau, and you got Sung J M. All of them have some course history. Some have great course history in that group. There's a lot of ownership going at the top of the board. Jason, we'll start with you. Who's your favorite play out of those top 4 guys?
Oberg is definitely my favorite.
Okay.
I think he's the only one in the top that doesn't have question marks about him a little bit. I feel like Hideki's been really good. I 100% agree with that. Do we think Hideki can keep it up? Number one, I think that's the biggest thing. And like
she said,
I just feel like Oberg really fits this course better than any of the other guys. And I really, really, really don't like. What are you laughing about?
I made a joke.
You didn't hear
Steve heard it, but you didn't hear it.
You didn't hear it?
No, don't worry about it. Just keep going. Keep going.
It was great.
Finau has good.
I'll tell you when you're older, okay?
Finau has good course history. We know that for sure. But I just haven't liked what I've seen from Finau. I mean, like he was just a bogey machine last week, and I don't think he can just turn it on. Like I'm not as confident with him, I guess, and so I think Oberg is definitely the play for me.
Okay, Steve, what do you got in this top range here?
Yeah, same. Not much to add. Just kind of to add to Finau on an easy course on an easy weekend where you should be able to find your game, and I think the injury that he's trying to get back from is still kind of bothering him while he's trying to get into form. But yeah, Oberg, he's the only guy who I have in my lineups in the 10K range.
See, I faded him. I did fade Oberg, just so you know. Like I bet him to win. Actually, I didn't fade him. I think I put him in 2 lineups. Actually, I actually put a little bit of everybody, so I have 2 lineups with him. I did bet Oberg to win because I do agree with everything you guys said, but the 25% ownership projections are kind of skewing me, and everything you guys said about Homa being a perfect course fit here and overcoming his struggles is why I'm very heavy on Tony Finau. And I joked, Steve, I've hit 3 of the last 4 years the outright here. I've also last year when I didn't hit an outright, I had a huge DFS weekend. So I kind of feel like I understand this week. And I think Tony Finau is a guy, the largest bet I've ever placed on an outright ever is on Tony Finau to win this week. I'm just going to say that right now.
I just have a feeling too, for some reason, this has Hideki WD written all over it. I feel like it's like whenever you get
He's on
confident,
2 of my lineups for that reason.
whenever you get Hideki, like confident in Hideki is when he always screws you, right? It's like you see him come, he won a few weeks ago. He came back with 16th at the Sony, and you're like, okay, I'm all in on him. He fits his course perfectly. He's good on long courses. I mean, great iron player, number 1 tee to green in this field. And then you're just like, man, they're playing this course again in 2 weeks. This has WD written all over it.
I don't disagree with you at all on that.
And he's starting on the South course too, so I can see that frustrating him and being like,
what if he comes out on the front 9 and is 3 over? That's WD.
Yep.
That's WD written all over it.
Yeah.
All right, 9K range. I think the 9K range has some great sneaky plays. Some interesting priced players in the 9K range as well. You already mentioned his name, Jason. Will Zalatoris is in this range. You got Keegan. You got Max Gracerman, who I'm shocked has got such that. I'm shocked that they got it right and gave him the price bump this week. Jason Day, Sahith Theegala, and whatnot in this range. So, Steve, we'll start with you in the 9K range. Do you have a favorite play in this range?
Yeah, I'm sticking on the Will Zalatoris train. I've been on him since the beginning of the season. He started well, and I really do think that putting on that muscle in the off season, you hear the commentators talk about it and the announcers and in the articles, how much it's helped his health and his game. And I just think he's on the cusp of winning. And then Jason Day is really the only one, the other person, and it's just because of course history. So if he, depending on his ownership, really is the only other play for me, just because I think everyone is on Gracerman. And so I think his ownership and he's putting great right now. And so bogey avoidance, putting, those things are huge this week. So he's someone else who for sure will be in a lot of people's lineups.
I mean, you meant everybody keeps talking about Will Zalatoris, and I mean, he's pushing 20% already on ownership too. Does that not scare you there, Jason?
It does to a certain extent, but I think, like Steve said, like it looks like he's back. Like he didn't look like he was back. He had a couple flashes last year, but you're like, man, especially coming off a back injury, like how much time that takes. I mean, he looks like the old golfer again that he was. And people forget how good he was a few years ago. It's like, yeah, he would choke a little bit at the end of majors, but like he was right there, like top 10 in almost every major. I mean, like he's a big game hunter when he's healthy. And I think the muscle and the back being healthy, it's hard not to like him.
I'm going to give you guys a name here in the 9K range that everybody's overlooking because he's only played here once in the last 5 years, but he's actually played here 6 times total, just only once in the last 5 years. He's got great course history in the past at this event. He's a former major champion. He's only at 10% projected ownership right now, and I'm just shocked. And talk about grinders and a former major champion. Shane Lowry's extremely underrated at 9K. And let me tell you something. He is the second most clicked person in my player pool outside of Tony Finau because nobody's giving him the credit he deserves. He finished here 25th last year. He had taken 4 years off prior, but before that, he's got multiple top 15s, a top 10. He knows this course, and he hasn't played on the PGA Tour yet this year, but he did play in the fall on the World Tour, and he had a whole bunch of top 5s and top 15s on the World Tour. So let me tell you something. Shane Lowry, when I got my money back from Harry Hall withdrawing, I put all that money on Shane Lowry to win the event because I think Shane Lowry's a great play. Jason, do you agree with that?
I do. I like that call a lot. I've been debating on him. I think the only thing that scares me is that he hasn't played since like mid-November. I think that's the biggest flaw for him.
He did. He played on the TGL. Okay.
Right. True. He did. But like he has even the DP World Tour. He has. I think his last start was
mid-March. He finished third in that event. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a while. I mean, he in theory sets up perfect for this course. Though. I mean, a good approach player. If it gets windy, he's good in the wind. I mean, he's a grinder, and I like it a lot too. And I think I was hoping his ownership would be even lower with all the guys.
Yeah. When I was building, that's the problem with Wednesday start events. Like you don't have enough time to really digest ownership percentages. You know what I mean? Because we got to get it all done. I built my lineups this morning, and whatnot, instead of wait until tonight or tomorrow to do it. It started late last night, early this morning. He was right around 8%. It bumped up to 10%. And Rashad, very few people will know what you mean about the inner excellence unless you're an Eagles fan or a diehard football fan. But absolutely, I agree with you. That's just such a story right there. I love it. That author owes AJ Brown so much because if you don't know this, Jason, did you know the inner excellence story with AJ Brown?
No.
He was caught 2 weeks ago reading a book on the sideline
during
the playoff game. That book, Inner Excellence, was 520,000 on the Amazon bestseller list. That's how far down it was. it shot up in one day to number one on Amazon's bestseller list.
That's hilarious.
From 500-something thousandth place to number one in one day.
I have one
It was
more
AJ
point
Brown.
about Lowry. I think so. Matt McNeely is getting a ton of hype this week.
Yep.
Everybody's all about him. The California kid. His results here, I mean, he's like a T30 waiting to happen. I feel like the easiest pivot on the whole board of any player is pivoting off of Matt McNeely and going to Lowry.
See, I feel the same way about Zalatoris at 20%, drop down, or Max Home at 8,800, and tier up to Lowry. I think Lowry is the perfect pivot this week for those that care about ownership. As long as he stays in that 10% range, it's the perfect pivot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Jason, I didn't ask you if you had any names, but I figured you were just Zalatoris in that range.
Zalatoris, yeah, I think he's the easy play. I think Thigala is interesting to me this week. I think he feels like he should fit this course perfectly. Like he's another one that's not his game's not exactly like Max Homa's, but strong around the green. He's a pretty good driver of the golf ball. It can be a little sporadic at times, but I feel like he could be another guy that. I mean, I think he had one good finish here, if I'm not mistaken, a couple years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago, 4th place.
Yeah, he's interesting to me this week for sure.
Yep, no, I do like him as well this week. All right, into the 8K range. There's lots of names in the 8K range. Some well priced, some shockingly higher priced. But again, it is what it is. Obviously, Bethea has withdrawn from this price range. Who I'm not sure if I would have played Bethea this week or not. But I always seem to trap myself. I'll just You need the audiobook, Mister. Yeah. I can't be reading a motivational book like that. I would never make it through it. I need like a spy thriller if I'm going to read something. Jason, back to you. 8K range. You got a name or two that you really like here? Because outside of Max Homa, there are some really interesting plays in this range.
I feel like this range is going to be chalk city, and I think it's okay. I mean, I think the easiest click for me is Homa for sure, but I think Pendrith is another one, and he's going to be super highly owned too. So I'm not exactly like turning over a new leaf or anything like that. But I mean, you see a guy that fits ideally for this course. I mean, Pendrith can bomb it off the tee and he can putt. I mean, that's exactly what you need at this course. So I like Pendrith a lot. I was hoping his ownership wouldn't be 20%, but he's probably my favorite play in this range.
Yeah. Steve,
I'm going to continue to go with the guys who I've been going with all season, and Kitayama. He's second in bogey avoidance right now in this field. He won at Bay Hill in 23, and this is kind of like a comp course for that. Another Cali guy who loves playing these sort of courses and current form. He is what I'm going with with Kitayama to go along with Max Homa. Who we
do you worry on Kitayama about his course history here? I think he's missed both cuts here.
No, I think with the comp course in Bay Hill and how he's playing right now, almost like these other guys, like Will Zalator, that almost matured in a sense. I think Akshay is going to be another person who this season takes a leap in that maturity of strategy, knowing which irons to play, when to play them, not going bomber off the tee every single time. I think that's where Kitayama's at right now.
Kitayama actually finished second in my model this week when I built my model.
So, yeah.
I'm gonna, obviously you were talking, Jason, about the chalk in this range. I think if Harry Hall and Bethea didn't withdraw, I think because Harry Hall's in this price range as well, maybe the ownership might have been spread out a little bit more. But I'm gonna throw obviously my man, because I'm a Rye guy, Aaron Rye, 7th in my model this week. Does not make a lot of bogeys.
Rye guy.
I'm a Rye guy. I can't help myself. 8,300. He's at about 12.5% ownership right now. I think Aaron Rye is a really strong play this week. But I agree. I think there was a lot of names I almost played in this range, like Maverick, Mav McNeely, Homa, Clanton, all those guys. But I think you pivot down to the 7s, or you pivot up to 9K with Lowry, and you figure out your lineups from there, because everybody's going to go into this range.
I feel like Clanton is the most interesting in this range. I feel like in theory, his game should fit perfectly for this course. I just worry about him with his around the green game being as bad as it is. I mean, he's one of the worst around the green players probably on the tour. So I worry a little bit, but he's just an absolute bomber. I mean, I hate playing guys in their maiden voyage to one of these courses like this, but I just feel like in terms of talent, Clanton, he's probably who I'm most excited to play. I haven't decided if I'm going to play him or not, but most excited to watch play this week.
What about Bo Hostler at 8K? He's got a 6th and a 9th, but also 3 missed cuts. His ownership is sub 10% right now. It's a name. He ended up. I have like 6 or 7 lineups right now, but like 3 of those clicks were because of Harry Hall withdrawing. So I just, same price. I liked them a little bit. I kind of threw some of those, Harry Hall lineups to Hostler right there. But he's got very inconsistent. He's got great history and awful history at the same time at the same course. And I'm just hoping that he's playing well enough right now that, he can have one of the better weeks versus one of the bad weeks.
He was good in the fall too. I'm in on Hostler this week. I was shocked to realize today I was reading that he doesn't have a win in his career. I guess I just missed that at some point, but he seems like a guy that, like, yeah, he's not a superstar ever, but like he seems like a guy that could get hot. I mean, great around the green player, good putter. It's like it seems like he would have a win by now.
Yeah, I agree with
Grinder
that.
too, like what you guys said earlier. He's a grinder.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. All right, 7K range. Lots of names as always here. Starting at the top with some popular names like Spawn and Dietrich. You got the Gim Reaper in this range. Justin Rose, who despite not being the biggest hitter, is getting a lot of love this week. A lot of names in this range. Steven, we'll start with you. Thoughts on this range, at least the top half. Is there a favorite play in the top half or middle range here?
Thomas Dietrich in the top half. He's one of those guys who's long off the tee. His long irons on par 4s here is going to be key. So in the top range for me, that's who I'm going with is Thomas Dietrich.
He's getting a lot of love this week, and he's gotten a little bit of a bump. He's up to about 10% now, ownership wise. Jason, do you agree on Dietrich? You got a different name there that you like?
I do. I like Dietrich a lot this week. This range I feel like is absolutely loaded. I love this range for sure.
Yep.
Jaeger's probably my favorite. I just feel like he T3 at the Sony. I think he had a little bit of a down year after I thought he kind of turned the corner a little bit. He went from being the guy that was like the cut maker to almost like the Hubbard kind of guy to a guy that could win. And I feel like, he had a T3 at the Sony. I think he had finished 3rd here last year too. So I really like Jaeger's probably my favorite play in this range, but I like Dietrich as well.
I think wasn't Jaeger one of, if not the top tipped bet golfer this week?
Was he?
On the Golf Tips Checker
golf
tip checker account and everything. So there are a lot of people, and his ownership keeps going up there as well. I'm just going to throw a couple names at the top here on top. Obviously, I like Spawn as well. I like Eckroat as well. I've got a lot of Dietrich in my lineups right now. And Mac Meisner, another week that he could be a good play this week. I've got literally 7 guys in the mid 7s with 5 clicks right now because I'm literally just spreading it out across all these plays right now. I mean, I really couldn't choose 1 or 2. You kind of got to get a little action on all of them.
Another guy that I would really like this week, and I think isn't getting as much steam as he should, is Fishburne. This dude is like, first of all, he bombs it off the tee and he's a good putter. Yeah, he's like
he's on the list. He's on the list.
He fits this course perfectly. Yeah. In theory, I don't think he's ever played this course, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, he's 3rd off the tee in this field. He's 9th par 4s from 450 to 500. He's 18th around the green. Like he's, in theory, should dominate.
He missed the cut here last year. I just double checked.
Well, I'm glad he played this course. Honestly,
he's got 6% projected ownership. You can't beat 6% ownership for someone with his game.
Well, and you can't even compare last year to this year with him. I mean, he's a way better player now than he was last year.
What about the bottom half, second half of this 7K board? Any names, Jason, that you like? I got a sleeper down here that I don't know if either of you guys will get.
I thought I was going to be cute with Taylor Moore. That was going to be my favorite pick. Taylor Moore and Smalley were my 2 favorites. What I thought were going to be sleepers, and they are not at all. Especially Smalley, I think he's going to start approaching like 12 or 14%, which sucks. But Taylor Moore is probably my favorite. Just another guy just bombs it off the tee.
What about you, Steven?
Same, Alex.
I'll always go
Alex
Steven.
Alex Smalley's in a lot of my lineups, but Harris English, I have him in almost all my lineups. He ranks 19th in putting in this field, 9th around the green, 32nd off the tee, and he got 3rd place here in in 2021 at the U.S. Open. So course history.
Look at you diving into U.S. Open knowledge there. I like that.
Yeah, I did a lot of reading. Work was slow. It was cold, man. Work was slow.
I like the extra work there on that.
So he actually is one of my outrights this week.
I do. He's a grinder, Harris English. Yeah. So if it's going to be 7-8 under, Harris English is going to contend in the event.
So one of my favorite people to follow in this industry is Ryan Baroff, and he was huge on Harris English this week. So interesting.
Yep. I didn't see Harris English on anybody's cards. I pulled that out of myself as well. I will throw one more name. Since I didn't get the one surprise in Harris English I thought I was going to get, I do like, not normally, but I do like this week because his course history in the last, because when you use Fantasy National like Jason and I do, fantasynational.com, if you sign up for any of their stuff, make sure you send them a little message and let them know they heard about him right here on Fairway to Heaven. I went further than the last 5 years. And this guy has been playing here since 2011. And he's got multiple top 20s. Just not a lot of success in the last couple of years. But, he kind of had a little brain surgery problem. But Gary Woodland, another former, Gary Woodland's got great success over the last 13 years at this event. I didn't use a lot of Gary Woodland, but a way to balance out some, at 7,200, very cheaply owned. You want to get, say you want to get Finau and, Pendrith or Gracerman and Willie Z in a lineup. You go down to someone like Woodland in English. It's a great way to balance out a lineup right there.
I just feel like Woodland's going to be 15% at least. And that's
you think he's going to get that high?
I think so.
Man, I didn't think he was. Yeah, he's right now at 12%. The last I checked, it was a little bit less than that. But all right, well, maybe you're right on that. Maybe you go down to 72, Michael Kim or something like that, if you want to pivot off of him.
He's getting a lot of I was hoping that he would be sneaky this week, and he's getting a lot of steam too. It's weird.
Problem is, more and more people are doing these golf podcasts and more information.
There's
we're not the sneaky kids on the block anymore. Everybody's got this information. All right, real quick. Any 6K names? I already mentioned a few that I like. I've only got 3 6K names in my player pool this week. But Taylor Montgomery, huge, course history. I know, I don't know if you would consider it chalky, but once you get down to 6K, what you consider chalk has to change. And he's already at about 5%. And it'll probably go up a little bit more. Taylor Montgomery is 5%, 6,500. Is that chalk, Jason?
No. I consider chalk like 10%, 10 to 12.
Okay. I thought maybe at different price levels, chalk changes a little bit. No. Okay. Jason, you got any names?
Nate Lashley is probably my favorite one. I don't think anyone's going to be on him this week. Well, I hope no one's going to be on him this week, I should say. He's my favorite. He had T3 here last year. Just a guy that just putts, and when he finds a course that he likes, he's like another one of those guys where he finds a course he likes and he plays good there. So I'm hoping this is the one. So Lashley's my favorite.
Gotcha. Steven.
You mentioned his name. You mentioned his name earlier. Bramlett. He's one of them who can bomb off the tee, and he's in pretty good current form. But Jake Knapp, T3 last year here, and it's another course where he plays well. And this is one of those picks where if I go this low, it's because I'm weighing course history versus current form.
Got a question from
Jake Knapp came in last year. I was looking at his what he came in. He had a third here last year too. Almost the same thing. Started off, I think he played terrible at the AMEX. I think before that hadn't played a while, so it's almost like the same exact setup this year. Didn't play well last week, but fits the course really well. So I like Knapp too.
Rashad's asking any thoughts on strategizing course rotation, because obviously the first 2 rounds are split north and south. I think you definitely have to do that if you're playing showdowns. You want to stick to the north courses on showdowns, rounds 1 and 2, without a doubt. And I do showdowns rounds 2, 3, and 4 all the time. So 100%. I didn't actually have time to even look if weather's going to be a factor Wednesday or Thursday. If weather's not going to be a factor, since everybody's playing both courses Wednesday and Thursday, I kind of feel like, does it really matter early on in the tournament like that? I don't know if it matters if weather's not a factor.
I think Thursday is supposed to be 76 and sunny, and then Friday's partly cloudy and 73. No weather advantage this week.
It's San Diego. It's sunny 360 days of the year.
Pretty much, yeah.
Basically. Any thoughts on course rotation, strategizing, Steven?
I prefer to get guys who are playing the North course tomorrow. And then for 3 straight days, you're playing the South course, and you got try and get the birdies that you can get early on the earlier round, like tomorrow, and then deal with the South course for 3 straight days.
That's a fair thought process. I'm guessing because you're thinking, that you get off to a hot start and then you can kind of just grind your way the rest of it. It makes sense, and maybe that's a strategy we should be taking. I didn't this week, but again, I bet you if I had 1 extra day and if it was starting on Thursday, maybe I would be, thinking a little bit more detailed about that. Does that play into do you rush your picks, Jason, this week? Because me, I feel like I'm rushing myself.
I feel like I'm rushing myself too. I wish I had another day too. I think it's just in my head. I've been in my own head a lot this week, and I have thought the shit
That's
out
pretty
of
good.
which course is better to start on. I've thought about it all day today.
Mm.
I've come to the consensus of I don't really know. I was hoping that there would be a wave advantage, but I am going to stack because I'm not sure. I'm going to stack some guys that all play on the North course tomorrow, and I'm going to stack a few lineups with, people that start on the South course too.
Gotcha. Guys, you're watching Fairway to Heaven right here on the STT Sports Network. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button wherever you're watching. We'd greatly appreciate that as we're growing the STT Sports Network. All right, guys, it's time. Let's see after last week where our standings are because we have 2 contests going amongst us. Just friendly wagers here. We got the one and done, and we got the DFS head-to-head rivalry here.
Woo!
Yeah, Jason still with $0 earned in the one and done. I stuck at 52 because my guy missed the cut last week. Stevie, you're up to 367. Just so you know, early leads don't necessarily mean you're going to win it. Just so you know.
No, but it's feeling good.
And on the weekly picks, I won week 1. It looks like Stevie won week 2, and Jason still another thing with a goose egg. So, Steve, you are first in the DraftKings contest this week. So you get to pick whether you're going to go first, second, or third. I picked third last week, and it didn't help me one iota. So you get to pick the order this week.
Let's just go what we got on the screen. I'll go first, Jason second, and Phil third.
Sons of bitches.
All right, so I'm third again. All right, that's fine. All right, so who you're taking with your first pick there, Steve?
With my first pick, I'm gonna go Zalatoris.
Zalatoris. Get your 2 favorites off the board right away. All right. Jason, who you going with?
I'm gonna go with your favorite player, Aaron Rye.
Aaron Rye. You're stealing the right. Everybody makes fun of me. You made so many social media jokes about me betting Aaron Rye every single week, and now here you are.
You like
Aaron Rye every single week.
Not a good golfer. I like him when he's a good golfer. That's the difference.
No. You just want to steal my thunder. It's okay. All right, so I'm gonna go how I built a lot of lineups, and I'm gonna start with 2 picks here. I'm gonna go Tony Finau, and I'm gonna go Shane Lowry with the 2 guys I think that are gonna win this event. And again, like I said, I'll tell you guys off the air about it. But biggest bet I've ever made is on Shane Lowry this week, just so you know, or not Shane Lowry, Tony Finau this week. So it's something. It's a bet. All right. So
I'm gonna go Homa.
Max Homa.
Chuck's
Really, there's nothing surprising so far out of this group here.
All right.
You're up for 2, Steve.
Yeah.
Steven.
Yeah. Let's go Dietrich and where'd he go? There he is. Kitayama.
Dietrich and Kitayama.
Kitayama.
Got it. Gotcha. Solid looking lineup so far. Outside Zalatoris. Oh no, I just think Zalatoris is going to be too highly owned for my blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the price, and yeah, we talked about it last year with him. Till I'm 100% sure he's 100% healthy, I'm away from Zalatoris. So
I'm gonna go Jaeger
bomb time. Okay, so I'm up for 2 here. We're gonna get a little different here. We're gonna go Eckroat. We didn't talk about him, but I do like him this week. I think he's got a chance to have a solid week.
He's kind of like in the Kitayama elk this week for me.
Yeah.
It's like he's a guy that should fit this course perfectly, but for some reason hasn't had a lot of success here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll go him, and then I'll go Fishburne.
Fucker.
You want to trade? You want me to trade him to you?
I'll give you Aaron Rye for Fishburne.
Yeah, good. Done.
Oh,
I'll make that deal all day and Sunday.
I'm just kidding. I'm gonna go. I guess I'm just gonna have the most chalk lineup ever. I'm gonna go Bramlett.
Bramlett, yeah. You are going chalk. That's Have you ever done have you ever had success with an all chalk lineup? Because I have had a few lineups cash, not contend, but cash going chalky like that.
I have.
Steve, you're up.
Sorry.
Let's go Harris English. And Smalley.
And Smalley. All right.
Smalley. That's a good pick.
It is.
All right. I'm gonna go. Let's see what we got here. I guess I'm gonna go with the big dog. I'm gonna go Bear.
It's the big dogs, all right. Nothing wrong with that, though. Honestly. I'm up, right?
Yep.
All right. So we're going to go crazy here with my last two picks. We're going to go Montgomery at 6,500. And that leaves me enough to go with Pendrith at 8,800 to leave. So that's three guys there at the top of the board. So it's not a stars and scrub lineup, but pretty close to a stars and scrub lineup right there.
I am going to finish off with, I'm going to go Taylor Moore.
Taylor Moore.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And Mr. Steven Fuentes.
I'm gonna do it again. I guess I'll go with Day.
Day? Stuck on Day 2
yeah.
weeks ago. It worked for you last week, right?
Yep.
So why not? All right, so quick recap. Steven's lineup is Zalatoris, Dietrich, Kitayama, Harris English, Jason Day, and who was the other one? I can't even read my own handwriting.
Smalley.
Smalley, that's right. Smalley, that's right. Jason went Aaron Rye, Max Homa, the Jägerbomb, Bramlett, Aubert, and Moore. And I got Finau, Lowry, Fishburne, Eckroat, Monty, and Pendrith. So there's our three lineups right there. We'll see if Jason can get on the board in that area right there. So now we go to the one and dones. I pre-wrote down my one and done. So we'll see.
I'm the worst one and done player in the world. I'm going to go first this week.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to go with my man, Tony Finau.
Tony Finau. And I hope you get the W, because then that means I am making a withdrawal from DraftKings this week. That's how, like, if he wins, I will not be leaving all that money in DraftKings, just so you know. It'll be a tax form fill out. Steve, do you want to go with your one and done?
I'm going to go with Aaron Rye.
Aaron Rye. And because I think eventually here, with all the big names eventually joining here, a guy that's been hot this week, I'm going to go with Max Gracerman this week.
Nice.
I don't know if he'll win or not, but that's did I make a bet on him? I did make a bet on him.
He's so much better than people think he is. I think everybody's freaked out by the 9,300 last week.
Yeah.
What did he finish, 5th? I mean, like, the dude's a stud.
I almost made him in my one and done last week, and then I pivoted at the last second.
Yeah.
And I regretted it. So I can't believe he, hung around there, but he was what? I think he finished it. He was 5th or 6th place he finished in, but he was 7 strokes off the lead. That's how far ahead Sepp Straka was last week than everybody else. So I did make, obviously, I've already said it. I bet on Finau and Aubert with their shorter odds, 10 and 20 to 1. I bet on Aaron Rye. I added Shane Lowry. And I've got Keegan Bradley, because we didn't really talk about Keegan Bradley, but Keegan Bradley is a guy that could, in theory, win this event. He's been playing good golf this week, 22 to 1. That's where I'm at on my betting card this week. Steve, you want to go over your betting card this week?
I have Oberg 11 to 1, Zalatoris 25 to 1, Homa 35 to 1, and then I got on the Aaron Rye train late, 50 to 1, Harris English 91, and Jake Knapp 250 to 1.
Wow. You could bet $2 on that and be having a nice night out if you hit that one.
That's right.
That's right. My biggest hit up to date was when Luke List won this event at 75 to 1 a few years ago. That was my biggest golf payout for an outright.
No, you had Nick Taylor this year.
Yeah, but no, but based off of the units I wagered and stuff like that. It was my biggest payout so far was on Luke List on a single bet so far. Jason?
I have Zalatoris 22 to 1. I have Pendrith 35, Clanton 40, Aaron Rye 50 to 1, and then Jaeger 60 to 1.
And I gotta watch my odds. I got Aaron Rye at 45 to 1. You both got better numbers than me on Aaron Rye. Damn. All right. So that's what we got.
Late too.
Yeah. I just hope Tony Finau wins this event. So that's all I'm going for. I'm going to make so many bets on the NFC Championship game on Sunday if Tony Finau wins this event this week. We're just going to say it right here and there that there's going to be a lot of money wagered on the Eagles over the Commanders if Tony Finau wins.
I was thinking about parlaying Finau with the Commanders.
Yeah, you would do that. Wow. How are those Lions doing again? Yeah, that's right. Real quick before we wrap it up, Jason, as the guy that doesn't have a horse in the race anymore, and I don't mean that in a mean way, it's unfortunate. I was shocked, honestly, the Lions lost that game. Utter shock that they lost that game.
Yep.
But the Eagles are now, I think the Eagles are the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl now at this point on DraftKings. The Eagles are 6-point favorites. I don't know what the line is on the Bills-Chiefs game right now. But who do you think, Jason, will be the Super Bowl teams battling it out in a few weeks?
Bills and Eagles. Bills
and Eagles. The Chiefs do not get the refs' help and don't win that game.
Whew, I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not too. Steve, real quick, do you want to make a Super Bowl prediction? Which two teams make the Super Bowl?
I have Chiefs and Eagles.
Chiefs and Eagles.
Chiefs and
Gotcha.
Eagles.
I will absolutely say something nice about. I can say a lot of nice things about the Commanders. Okay, Rashad, I got notebook. Let me pull out my trending in the AM notebook here. All the notes I got on the Commanders here. Okay, they've won 7 straight games. I mean, 4 of them were against really bad teams, and one of the other wins you had to knock our quarterback out in the first quarter. With a cheap shot. They do have the cheapest, dirtiest player in the game in Frankie Louvu. It's all another conversation. But I will say this: Vic Fangio, Eagles defensive coordinator, and I agree with him, said today in his press conference, Rashad, that Jaden Daniels is only a rookie based off his birth certificate. He does not play like a rookie, and I agree with what Vic Fangio says there. Jaden Daniels is playing some hell of a quarterback, but I don't think he's ready for a championship game as a rookie yet. And I got Eagles.
Philly.
Just so you know, Jason, I agree with you. I think it's Eagles Bills.
The worse the weather, I think the better off the Eagles are.
Absolutely agree.
So.
Kansas City is 2 points, -2.
Kansas City -2, yeah.
Is the spread.
That's going to be a really good game.
Yeah, it's going to be a close game. I will say this about it, that I saw something from a Rams account, and I hate this in sports in general. I hate this in life, this phrase. When people say, this Rams, reporter said that the Rams deserved to win that game. And I hate that philosophy in life and in sports that anybody deserves anything. You got to earn it. The Rams might have, in your opinion, deserved to that guy to win that game. But you know what? The Eagles earned the win. You know what I mean? So I hate that. And people use it in golf. They use it in their work. They use it in all different places. I hate when people say, like people said it all the time, Steve, about Allen Iverson. He deserved to win a championship. Well, he didn't earn it. You know what I mean? You got to earn it. You got to earn the win. And Tony Finau's going to earn the win this week.
Hey, there we go.
Segue.
Yeah.
I think
anyway.
Amon-Ra St. Brown just bought a copy of Inner Excellence.
Yeah. Everybody
have
should
on the
be buying
sideline.
Inner Excellence right now. Everybody needs a little Inner Excellence. Tony Finau, you know what? If Tony Finau doesn't win, I'm going to buy Inner Excellence and send it to him after this week because he'll need some Inner Excellence with but hold on. I take back, Jason, every 5th place Finau comment I ever made on this show. Steven, early in the show, I used to have shirts for sale that said 5th place Finau before he actually won any events because he'd finish in 5th place every single week. I take back everything bad I ever said about Tony Finau. Guys, this is Fairway to Heaven right here, talking to Farmers Insurance Open for Stevie Fuentes right there, for Jason Sullivan right there. I'm Phil Stiefel. Everybody have a great week. We'll be back next week talking Eagles Super Bowl and next week's event. I always say go Birds, but we'll say bubbles up. Everybody have a great night.
Pop, 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 julep. Pop, 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 julep. Pop, 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 pop.